The base has dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here, September 17th. It's a Tuesday Thoughts edition, so tweet at us at Soccer Down here. Yell at us for being late. We did not clean up our library. We're full, John. We've done too many hours of soccer conversation.
No such thing.
No, well, actually there was, because we couldn't do a show, and we had to figure out what was going on. But now we figured it out. We've deleted a few episodes from, last year at this point?
Very early 2018.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in the old library. We're gonna have to do some cleaning and rearranging and storing in other places to be able to
go
keep
to our
doing live shows.
SoundCloud page.
No,
go to the OSG
John,
Sports SoundCloud page if you're
John. Nobody's listening to a show from early 2018. Do you randomly pull up SportsCenter from 2017? Just to see what happened on this day? No, it's all good. They don't need to go to the SoundCloud page. They're getting. I go to
the Big Show stuff and rewatch that.
That's different. We're not in that category. I'm not going to put that down. I'm not claiming that one. But you're not watching it to see what happened on a random day in the Angels Rangers game. It's all good. So we're going to keep giving you the live stuff because that's what's important, right? All the live conversation, like Champions League starting today. Lots of American influence in the Champions League today. I guess the debate that I heard this morning was, should Christian Pulisic start? Should he be back in the starting lineup? Is he ready to start?
Was that in italics or all caps?
It was in a silly accent is what it was in. The whole thing about, like, Christian Pulisic starting in the Champions League. I believe he has over 20 starts in the Champions League in his career. I think he's been there and done that. I think he can handle it. But all the adjustment to going to play at Chelsea.
All the adjustment.
Is he good enough to play? Play him. Is he not in good form? Don't play him. It ain't rocket science. Just because he's an American doesn't mean you have that conversation about him. He's a player. He can play. If he plays well, he keeps playing. If he doesn't, he goes to sit on the bench. It's really that simple. Jesse Marsch will be on the touchline for Red Bull Salzburg, first American manager in the Champions League. Be very curious to see how it goes for Jesse Marsch. Other guys, Timothy Weah could see some time for Lille. Tyler Adams, does he see some time for RB Leipzig in this campaign? There's a number of players to keep an eye on from an American perspective. And Champions League, it's a little different this time around from a TV perspective because you will have 12:55 games. I think kickoff is like right at 1 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they do like the 5-minute little pregame of lineups and pictures and formations and things.
I think the actual game broadcast is scheduled for 12:55, but kick will be like right at 1 or just after 1. You've got that window, and you've got the 3 o'clock window every match day. So TNT will have 2 games. TUDN will have 2 games. Galavisión will have a second game in Spanish on that side of it. It looks like in every window, at least for today they do, and for tomorrow they do. There could be some weeks where they don't have a second game in the early window or whatever because there's only a couple of games. So that's all for your basic stuff. If you have BR Live, you get everything. There is a 2-day extra that I don't know the details on just yet. I know it's something that they've been working on rolling out. I don't know if it has rolled out yet. All the games are listed for 2-day extra just like they are for BR Live. So I'll be curious to see if that is available and what that looks like. I think they were trying to get it out in time for Champions League. So keep an eye on that one. I don't know if it's an over-the-top subscription or if you already have 2-day NA, you get access to 2-day NA extra. Check on it. Keep an eye on it. And if you're looking for a place to watch, well, the Brewhouse has 11 billion TVs. So go check out our friends at the Brewhouse Cafe, and you can watch whatever game you want to today. You've got some interesting ones today. In the early window, Inter Slavia Prague is probably the one most people will be watching. If you missed soccer over there last night, Nick Alifi dropped the bombshell, and he's got Inter as his upset lock of the year on winning the Champions League.
Wow. What were they, plus 3,300?
Something like that, yeah. I want to. I'm going to watch this game because I want to see, is Nick crazy?
Yes.
And the answer is yes, but how crazy is he? That's what I want to see. Lyon and Zenit is the other early game. The 3 o'clock games, I mean, there's three really big ones with Chelsea, Valencia, Dortmund, Barcelona, and Napoli, Liverpool. TNT has Napoli, Liverpool. TUDN has Dortmund, Barcelona. Chelsea, Valencia, you're going to have BR Live or TUDN Extra to watch that one, or go to a venue that would have it. And I know the Brewhouse will have that for their Chelsea fans. Ajax and Lille is also at 3 o'clock. Benfica and RB Leipzig is an underrated game that could be really good.
Sneaky.
And then Jesse Marsh's Red Bull Salzburg and Genk from Belgium. Those are all 3 o'clock games. Big games today. The Champions League's a lot of fun to watch, and I'm glad that there are some interesting storylines on the American perspective in it this time around.
And from our soccer over there last night, it looks like some of the juice box interest has shifted in certain directions.
Well, it always does.
And the interesting ones now are both Dortmund, Barca, and Liverpool, Napoli. There is nothing on the minus side in any option for those four teams. The win option, the draw option, they are all pluses, all 6 categories now.
I guess
Liverpool is now plus 125 to Napoli's plus 200. Barca
this
plus
is the one that surprises me the most, though. So Napoli is a plus 200 at home.
Uh-huh.
Not saying, I'm just saying.
Yeah. And Barca's plus 137 on the road. Dortmund plus 180 at home.
That one's a little tougher to read. I think Dortmund can get the win there. I think Barca could have a difficult time in their group. What's Chelsea-Valencia for those who are interested?
Chelsea is minus 125. Valencia plus 320 in your draw, plus 280.
Some interesting ones. Very intriguing. The Napoli home one is the one that jumps out at me. I can see Napoli winning this one at home. I can easily see that happening. And that's not a knock on Liverpool. It's just Napoli's pretty good. That's not an easy place to play. Liverpool lost there in the group stage last time around. And the thing that blew my mind as we were prepping for soccer over there last night, the tiebreak between Napoli and Liverpool to get out of the group stage last year went down to 7 categories on the tiebreaker list before Liverpool got through and knocked out Napoli. It was total goals scored in the group
Miles
stage.
per gallon on the team bus.
No, not at all. Not at all. It was just total goals. Pretty simple. But it was that close. So Napoli winning at home like they did last year, I would not be shocked at all. And I do think both of those teams will go through, and Liverpool should win the group. We'll get into lots of Champions League stuff next week on Soccer Over There as we wrap up, and we'll get you set with a brief preview for tomorrow's games here at some point in our conversations on the show. Couple programming notes, though. Tomorrow, I will be in an airplane during the normal time slot, so we will not have a normal show, but John has put out the bat signal to the SDH All-Star crew, and you will have interviews with who that will be airing in the morning?
We have scheduled all 5 of the regular contributors in the batting order. Chris Furmeister, Pro Soccer USA, Felipe Cardenas of The Athletic, Joe Patrick, Dirty South Soccer, Doug Robertson of the AJC, and Jared Smith of Soccer Down Here.
I've heard of that last guy.
I know.
It's been a while, but I've heard of him.
Yeah, and for the record, because you are in Cincinnati on Wednesday, Jarrett will be joining me for the Atlanta United 2 Charleston Battery match on ESPN+.
Yes, and in between the games in the evening with Mike Conti and I on 92.9 The Game in Cincinnati, and John and Jarrett from the Fraction in Kennesaw.
There you go.
we'll have a live Q&A. Mike and I will do it from, it looks like a White Castle venue.
Strong.
It looks like there's a White Castle right next to the hotel. So,
that's
done.
great.
Easy, problem
A1
solved.
White Castle.
No, I'm just getting the traditional White Castle. I want to have the traditional because I don't remember if I like it more than Crystal or not because it's been
I would think you
probably
wouldn't.
20 years. I like the Crystals. I think I like the Crystals better, but I'm going to give the White Castle a run for its money. We'll have a live Q&A from the White Castle location near our hotel as we get ready to head over to Nippert Stadium for Atlanta and Cincinnati. We're going to get into your questions on a Tuesday Thoughts edition of the show, your comments, your thoughts, your whatever's on your mind. And it can be Champions League. It can be Atlanta Columbus. It can be Atlanta Cincinnati. It can be the rest of MLS. We're going to get into Jonathan Tannenwald's article at the Philadelphia Inquirer. All the conversation about teams having to or teams needing more charter flights, that's great. What about when teams don't use the ones they already have?
Uh-huh.
We'll get into that. And if you can kind of connect the dots, Philadelphia Inquirer, Jonathan Tannenwald, who might not be using charter flights. Yes, we'll get into that in just a minute. There's another article over at Forbes I wanted to get into as well this morning with some ideas that MLS should borrow from the NFL. And it sounds crazy, but there's a few things that are definitely worth digging into there. So we'll get into that as well. It's going to be one of those kinds of Tuesdays where there's some bouncing around a bit. But after a quick break, we're going to come back and go through the results from the weekend, what the playoff picture looks like right now, and look ahead to tomorrow's matches in MLS. What to watch for in the Eastern Conference, what to watch for in the Western Conference, who is backs against the wall, desperate, who has an opportunity to move up the table. We'll get into all that right after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. September 17th edition of Soccer Down here. Live. A little delayed, but live for you now. And we will run through the results from the weekend in MLS and kind of set the table on both of the tables in the Eastern Conference and Western Conference. One thing before we do, the Columbus Crew just tweeted out a little bit ago a very short video of a very scenic shot of downtown Columbus, Ohio, and the Crew logo and the date 10/10/2019. I am assuming there will be some news forthcoming on the downtown stadium that the Columbus Crew will be building in the Arena District. It's good news for them. It's a big step in the right direction. And with the sale that happened in Chicago, with the Fire now under new ownership, everything finalized for them moving back into downtown to play at Soldier Field, it feels like there's some progress going on. There's also a few clubs that might need a little bit of a kick to the backside for that progress to continue. And we'll talk about that in the next segment in Philadelphia and charter flights. But from the weekend, we'll run through them a little quicker than usual because we have some games to preview as well tomorrow night. Everything started on Saturday at Yankee Stadium. New York City gave up the first goal to Chris Wondolowski in San Jose, 20th minute. Keaton Parks and Alexandru Matrica scored twice in the final 5 minutes of the first half. NYC makes it hold up. They win 2-1, and it's a big one for New York City after what looked like a bad start.
Listening to Domi Torrent at halftime on Yes and Joe Tollison in the booth, Ian was with him, right? I think.
Yes. Yeah, it was Ian Joy and Joe Tollison on the TV side.
So listening to the three of them, A, toward the end of the first half, and B, into the second half and beyond, there was the prevailing thought that if they could just weather that first 30 minutes and San Jose was coming across the country, that they could tire, that San Jose would tire, and then they could affect play, meaning NYCFC. And so they got through that first 30 minutes and they took over, and then it was NYCFC getting the 2-1 Duke. And once again, and going back to San Jose for a second, I mean, Chris Wondolowski, to me, everybody's sitting there saying comeback player of the year. I'm like, what's he coming back from?
Yeah, exactly. He's not a comeback player of the year when he had double-digit goals last year.
Right. And so, the 10th year in a row he's had double-digit goals?
Yeah, that's not comeback player of the year.
That's consistency, my friend.
Yes. It's ridiculous what Chris Wondolowski has done in this league. And he's got 14 for the year now. It's the most he's had in a season since he scored 16 in 2015. And he could get to 16. He's still got some time to do it. He's going to go down as one of the all-time greats in Major League Soccer. And no, that has nothing to do with a miss in a World Cup match. Sometimes league play and national team play are just two different worlds, and you can separate them and say Chris Wondolowski is one of the greatest goal scorers in Major League Soccer history. And yes, he failed in a big moment with a national team kit on. Those two things are true. The one miss does not take away the 160 or so goals he's had in his Major League Soccer career, and it doesn't take away the fact that he has been consistently putting up double-digit goals for the majority of his career. It's unbelievable what Chris Wondolowski has done for this
sentence.
Team. Just unbelievable.
Tremendously talented player. Unbelievable what he's done. End of sentence. And that should always be the end of the sentence.
Yeah, it won't be, sadly. Chicago put a pretty big period on the end of the sentence. 4-0 against Dallas. 4 goals in the first half. 2 from C.J. Sapong, Frankowski, and Nikolic with the other 2. Dallas was just horrible defensively.
And this was why when you asked me last night when we started soccer over there about what I thought about the West, and this is why I had Dallas on the outside, I think that the teams that we have right now that are above the playoff bar are going to be the ones that are going to stay above the playoff bar. Order may jumble up, especially out west, but this is why I was leaning toward Dallas being odd man out, even though they're still a part of that gaggle that is chasing after the playoff bar.
Yeah, I don't think it's that simple because the Galaxy defense is really bad too. Dallas has got 2 tough games next. They go to Seattle tomorrow night. They host NYC on the 22nd. Then they go to Colorado on the 29th, and they host Sporting on Decision Day. There's points there for them. There's points that they can get out of those 4 games. I mean, I think you're probably looking at you need 2 wins and a draw to have a legitimate shot. If you get 7 points out of that, is that going to be enough? It might be. We'll go through that as we get a little bit deeper into this, but I'm not going to count them out just yet. but they have to show that they can bounce back after an awful loss in Chicago. We'll have to see how Montreal bounces back. They had an awful loss at home at Stade Saputo to Cincinnati. 1-0. Alan Cruz scores in the first 30 seconds. Somehow Cincinnati makes it hold up. Their first clean sheet since March. Their first win since early July. Kendall Waston had a red card late. He'll be suspended for tomorrow night's game with Atlanta. Montreal had 17 shots, but only put 1 on target. I mean, the impact, I don't know if it'd be any different if Remy Gard was still there. Wilmer Cabrera is still trying to figure it out. It is just an absolute mess for them.
And that's why I didn't have them north of the bar by the end of it. And you cannot have losses like this. Cannot. Underline, exclamated, italicized, bold-faced, mega-sized font. You cannot have losses like this.
No, you just can't. And they go to the LA Galaxy on the weekend, which I don't know. That game could be 10-9 at this rate.
Yeah,
Who
9-8,
knows?
yeah.
Orlando and New England. It's a really interesting one that I don't know if either team's truly happy here. New England had a 3-1 lead at halftime. Orlando scored twice early in the second half to equalize. They couldn't find one more. Orlando really needed 3 points. They're not done, though, because their schedule is very forgiving down the stretch. But they've got a 4-point gap and 2 teams in the midst of that gap ahead of them. What makes this really complicated. But they're not out of it. They're just probably going to have to win out. Nani did everything he could. He had 2 goals. He had an assist. He took 7 shots. There's nothing else that the captain can do, but it's not enough.
Yeah. And you look at Orlando, once again, I will maintain they are better than they have been. Of course, that bar has been pretty low the last couple of years. They're better. They're getting there, but I think to continue that push to try to do anything to have any kind of a chance to get into the postseason, you needed full points here instead of a shared result. And you could tell looking at the face of James O'Connor. Yes, we sit there and we reference James O'Connor face sometimes in conversations, but this was that same face for a different reason. It was because of what could have been that did not go down. And I think that Orlando is now a spoiler from now on.
No, I disagree with that. I don't think they're a spoiler from now on. I think Orlando has winnable games to finish out. They need help. That's different in my mind. I don't think they're – spoiler to me is somebody who has no hope. When you play at Houston, which isn't easy, but it's Houston. If you're going to be a playoff team, you should beat Houston. You go to Cincinnati, same thing. That's a winnable game for Orlando. And then they finish at home with Chicago, what could be a play-in game.
That'll be must watch on decision day. I'll give you that.
They could get 9 points. If Orlando comes out of that with 9 points, I'm not going to be shocked. So I think they're more than a spoiler. I think they could have been a whole lot more, and that's what they're going to be disappointed about after this one. 3 first-half goals. You can't do that when you've been a strong defensive team all season long.
Nope.
Philadelphia LAFC 1-1. Both goals in the first half. Shabilko scored in the 3rd minute. Carlos Vela equalized before halftime. It was a really even game. Andre Blake had a couple of big saves. I think he had 3 for the match. Philadelphia showed they can play with the big boys in the league, and on the LA side, 4 straight without a win.
Shabilko, to me, and this is what I wanted to bring up about this one, the acquisition of Kasper Shabilko, bringing him in, I know that it was one of those, unless you were really paying attention, that you're sitting there going, okay, Shabilko, he comes in, it's another body. But he has been one of the acquisitions of the year. And what he means to Philadelphia, it is one of those guys that you sit there and it's a fly below the radar kind of a thing. But to me, Shabilko has definitely been one of the players that has turned into must-see viewing since he showed up in Philly.
I don't think technically he would be in the running for newcomer of the year because he was signed in September of 18.
Right.
He didn't play in 18, so maybe that puts him in this running. There's a few other players who might jump ahead of him, and newcomer of the year, but Shabilko was a guy who started the season scoring the first goal of the year for Bethlehem Steel because there were other options up top for Philadelphia earlier on, and they didn't pan out. And then you had the whole Corey Burke situation where he's not allowed back in the country. Still would love to hear what happened as he goes to get his green card, and then, no, your work visa has been pulled and you can't play for the Philadelphia Union right now. Baffling. But Shabilko's taken full advantage, and he's got 14 goals in 22 starts, 4 assists. He does so much more than just score goals. Great signing by Ernst Tanner, and Jim Curtin has gotten the best out of Shabilko, and he backed up the trash talk he had after beating Atlanta. He said that they were ready for LAFC, and they were, and they get a point, and that's a good result for Philadelphia. You'd like to get the 3 at home, but LAFC has been a difficult team to beat all season long. They showed it again. Very even game. And it's, I think, a little bit, maybe less of a statement for Philadelphia than beating Atlanta, but it's still a statement that Philadelphia is a legitimate MLS Cup contender. 2 teams that are not MLS Cup contenders in 2019 and probably not in 2020 either. Vancouver, Houston, Whitecaps win 2-1. It's a late goal from Freddie Montero to get the win. It's the 1st and 4 for Vancouver. Just 2 teams that have been bad this season, and that's enough said. Moving on to Sunday's games, DC, maybe the shock result of the weekend. 1-0 win in Portland. It's an own goal from Bill Tuoloma in the 25th minute. DC should have had another one. There was a whole big incident with VAR and ball crossing the goal line. There was an angle that ESPN had that usually is not there. It's the target goal cam, and it showed, in my opinion, that the ball was over the line. I don't know if the VAR and the AVAR did not have that angle in time. It felt like they rushed the decision a little bit. It ultimately doesn't matter because DC gets the win. It might matter when it comes down to goal differential, and we'll see what happens, and we'll see if people remember it. The Timbers took 23 shots. They only put 4 on target for Hamid to save. They did hit the post twice. Portland has to be really frustrated with this loss.
And I'm kind of setting up my answer by doing this. Outside of NYCFC, there's only one other team above the playoff bar that is 500 or better on the road this year. DC United at 6-6-4.
Mm-hmm. They've proven to be a difficult out. They've had some swings, and they had some negative swings here lately, but it feels like maybe that's turning around for Ben Olsen's crew. After 2 straight wins on the road, both clean sheets too, in Montreal and Portland, after losing 3 in a row, maybe DC is gathering themselves for a bit of a run. I want to see where they end up finishing in the table. Looks like they're going to be fighting it out to host with Toronto. Probably just the 2 of them, because I don't think the Red Bulls are going to be in that conversation. On the Portland side, they've lost 3 out of their last 5 at home, which is a little shocking. 2-1 loss to Seattle, the 2-0 loss to Atlanta, and now a 1-0 loss to DC. They beat RSL at home. They beat Sporting Kansas City at home. They get the Red Bulls tomorrow at Providence Park. And that isn't exactly a must-win, but pretty close for the Timbers. Toronto with a really important 3 points, 3-2 over the Colorado Rapids. They got 2 early goals. The Rapids pulled it back and got it to 2-2. Jonathan Osorio with the winner in the 70th minute. Toronto are unbeaten in their last 7.
And I know that we had been kicking dirt on Toronto a month ago, 2 months ago. Do they have it? Do they have it? Are they going to make it? And they've hit their rhythm at the right time. And right now, 4th in the table. I did not anticipate this. I really didn't. And 2 months ago, I was like, I didn't think that they were going to be one of the teams that was going to be either in the playoffs or they were going to be a 7 if they were going to do it. But whatever they've found in the last 2 months, they've ridden it right now. And yeah, I mean, you're looking at them going with DC United right now, and we're into goal difference, and they're 2 up with that. And Toronto at home is 8-4-4, and they've found something, and whatever that is put them where they are. And so now all they have to do with 3 to go is stay right where they are, and they get that first round home match, probably against DC at this rate.
It's the last 5 weeks, and I'm not so sure that I'm going to give them that home match just yet, because they're undefeated in 7, but they've only won 3 of those. They've found a way to grind out some results when they've had to, and that's what's been impressive about them. But when you look at some of the results they've had over the last 7, 1-1 draw at home with Orlando, 2-2 draw in Columbus, 1-1 draw with the Revolution, 1-1 draw at Yankee Stadium's an impressive one. The teams they beat in the last 7, Montreal at home, at Cincinnati, and at home against Colorado. It's still not quite as impressive as you might think. They do go to LAFC on the 21st this weekend. They go to Chicago on the 29th, and that could be a massive one for the Fire. And then they host Columbus on Decision Day. They'll get in. I think they've got the cushion now to get in. They're okay there.
Yeah.
I don't know if they host. It's going to be – they're going to have to show a little bit more. The schedule has been favorable for them here lately, and I still think they've left points on the table. They could be pushing higher if they were that team. I think their results are showing where they are. They're somewhere between 4 and 6, and we'll see if they can turn themselves into anything more than that. Minnesota is trying to show that they are more than that, and I think they made a big statement with a 3-1 win over RSL on the weekend. They had to come from behind again. That was kind of the storyline of the weekend. Rusnak scored early. Minnesota blew them out after that. Darwin Quintero was just unbelievable in this one. 2 spectacular goals for him. Ethan Fenley put it away late. Callum Williams said it was the biggest win in the club's history on the broadcast. I don't know if I disagree with him. It was that big. It was a statement win for the Loons, and now they are in 3rd place, 1 point behind Seattle. They have a legitimate shot to finish 2nd in the West.
No doubt. And when you were mentioning Callum, I'm just playing it in my head in Callum voice. So, when you look at Seattle at 49, I have more questions about Seattle than I do about Minnesota. RSL just seems to be just humming right along. So 4 to me seems about right. Galaxy, I don't know. I don't know what Galaxy team I'm going to get on any given day. San Jose to me, I did not anticipate them being in the playoff picture. Matias Almeida has done some amazing things this year. I don't know which San Jose team I'm going to be getting now on a game-by-game basis. And Portland has given me questions when it comes to their recent run of form. So by process of elimination, I could see Minnesota being the 2. And what does that say about what they've been able to do over the last couple of years? Be patient, give us a couple of years. Here's the plan. Here's what we're doing. And right now you are, with 4 to go, a point out of 2nd place, and Allianz has proven itself to be a tough place to play. So good on the Loons for getting where they've gotten with what they've done over the last handful of years.
I think they could have done it sooner, and I disagree with the idea that you have to wait, and I think LAFC and Atlanta have shown that you don't.
True.
But what they've done this year and the group they've put together is very, very impressive. They are one of, looks like, 3 teams in the West and 1 team in the East that only have 1 loss at home. Allianz has become a fortress for the Loons, and it's going to be a tough place to go in and get a playoff win for whoever has to go in there. Seattle, You said you're not convinced. They did win over the Red Bulls 4-2. They scored twice early. They conceded the lead, Aaron Long scored one immediately after the second goal for Seattle. Then Kaku cut it to 2-2. An own goal off a bad deflection from Sean Davis gave Seattle the lead fairly late, and then Nico Lodero buried it in stoppage time. Seattle defensively is in a lot of the same situations that the Galaxy are in. They're just not good enough defensively to give up a lot of goals.
That's where my questions are.
But they have a lot of firepower. And if Xavier Arriaga and Kim Keehee can find some kind of chemistry, and I think Arriaga is the potential to be a very good center back in this league. He's still figuring it out a little bit. He's still young. He's still new to the team. Kim Keehee is fine. I don't think he's an all-star in the league, but I don't think he's bad either. If they can find some chemistry, maybe they can step it up, because it looks like they've settled on Gustav Svensson playing in the midfield, playing in the old Osvaldo Alonso role. And he's been very good at it. So Seattle, if they can get just a little bit better defensively, I mean, just small margins at this point, if they can just tighten up a little bit more, they'll be fine. But the gap between the teams in the West is really, really slim. When you look on the other side of it with the Red Bulls, 3 straight losses for them. They are on 41 points, 1 point ahead of 7th place New England. There's absolutely scenarios where the Red Bulls are the ones that might get pushed out. I don't think so. I think they've got enough of a cushion, and I think Montreal is showing that they're just not a team to consider here. So you can rule them out. Orlando has a winnable 3 games, but it's 3 games. So the Red Bulls finish up with going to Portland on Wednesday. They played in Seattle. According to Steve Cangelosi on the broadcast for MSG, they were busing from Seattle to Portland and then playing in Portland on Wednesday, and then coming back for a big game at Red Bull Arena on the 22nd, hosting Philadelphia. Then they host D.C., which is a rivalry game. Then they go to Montreal on Decision Day, where Red Bulls at Montreal and Chicago at Orlando could be play-in games coupled with Atlanta and New England in terms of the Revs' playoff future. Decision Day is going to be nuts in the East.
Yes, and really, even if you're just looking at numbers right now, the biggest number for me is Montreal's minus 15 with 3 to go. And any kind of a tiebreaker that has to go to goal difference, that minus number, that large minus number for Montreal is the biggest detractor for me if they're in any kind of a conversation.
You got to remember, though, wins is the first tiebreaker. It doesn't go to goal differential first. Wins is the first tiebreaker. And right now, Montreal has one more win than New England. Now, New England has a game in hand. But I'm not it's not good to have a minus 15, don't get me wrong. But the fact that Montreal has most of their points through wins, they only have 4 draws, that's going to help them in a tiebreaker situation if it comes down to it. Montreal's got to find a way to get some points, though. You lose to Cincinnati at home, I'm not believing in you at all. Another game that was nuts, the final one of the weekend, LA Galaxy 7-2 over Sporting Kansas City. The Galaxy, on the defensive side, have now conceded at least 2 goals in 10 of their last 11. That doesn't help you very much. But when you score 7, you can just do whatever you want.
Pretty much,
and Zlatan Ibrahimovic now has set the record for the highest goal-scoring season in LA Galaxy history. He had a hat trick. You don't want to live that way. You don't want to live in the world of having to outscore opponents 7-2 on a regular basis. But it's kind of nice when it happens for you.
Yeah, especially in fantasy, if you have Galaxy players like that. But, I mean, if you're turning your season into Nintendo and you're just going to sit there and try to outscore folks, okay, I understand it. But when you go up against a team that is sound defensively, you can run air raid and shotgun and all these things that you want. But if you've got a team that knows how to defend those defenses and can keep everything in front of them, then you're out the door. So I The Galaxy, to me, yeah, you can put up fantastic numbers, but your defense is just too much of a sieve for me long term. So you probably, you're probably in the playoffs to me, but I don't see a whole lot going on, although you are the boogeyman for LAFC.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen with them. Their defense is so bad. Eastern Conference playoff picture right now, NYC 57 points at the top. Philadelphia, same number of games played, 52 points. Atlanta, one game in hand on both of them ahead. They're on 48. Toronto, two more games played than Atlanta. They're on 45. DC, same situation. They're on 45. Toronto is ahead of them on that goal differential because they're both 12, 10, and 9. Red Bulls, 30 matches played, 41 points, 1 point ahead of New England, who's in the final playoff spot, 40 points through 30 matches played. Montreal, Chicago, both on 37 points through 31 matches played. Montreal's won 2 more games than the Fire. That's why they're ahead of them right now. Orlando, 36 points through 31 matches played. Orlando's 4 points out. Chicago and Montreal are 3 points out. All of them have played one more game than both New England and the Red Bulls. It maybe appears, and I'm going to stick maybe in there, that your top 7 are going to be your top 7. I'm not closing the door on either Chicago or Orlando yet because of what they have left. They both have schedules that are winnable to win out. And that's really important here because they're going to have to do that to put the pressure on. Chicago finishes up going to Cincinnati this weekend, hosting Toronto, and then going to Orlando. Those are all winnable games for Chicago. Orlando, we went through it. They have winnable games stacked up. So if both of those, I mean, this is what could be fascinating. If both of those win their first 2 of those, Chicago gets to 43, Orlando gets to 42, and then you have a showdown on decision day in Orlando. That's going to put pressure on the Red Bulls and New England to continue to pick up points. We went through the Red Bulls schedule. It's not pleasant. New England, it's not pleasant for them either. New England finishes up with hosting RSL this weekend, going to Portland on the 25th, hosting NYC on the 29th, and then coming to Atlanta on October 6th on Decision Day. I feel like you read that out and you ask what's going to happen, and you get Diego Maradona at Dorados. That's Bruce Arena right now because
best soundbite ever.
RSL is not as good on the road. You got to get 3 points there. You got to get 3 points to build a little bit of a cushion. Because if you get 3 and you're on 43, and Chicago wins their next 2 to get to 43, you're even. Because if you look at the rest of it, going to Portland, you're not expecting to pull points, although teams have at Providence Park lately. I don't think New England can do it. Then you host NYC, and NYC is going to be playing to try to lock up the top spot. I don't think that's an easy one for New England. Even at home, I think that's one that 3 points would be a wonderful bonus for them. And then you come to Mercedes-Benz. And yes, I think they're going to really look at what Caleb Porter did, and they're going to try to emulate it, but that's not easy to do either. So New England could come out of this with 4 points in their final 4. I mean, you get a draw somewhere in Portland, NYC, and Atlanta, 2 of those on the road. You got to beat RSL. If they lose to RSL, New England could fall out. They really could. That's what gets this whole thing really bonkers. When you look at the Western Conference, it's a little more bonkers from 2 to 8. But LAFC, 64 points are good. Seattle, 49. Minnesota, 48. RSL, 46. That's your next 3 in the playoffs hosting games. LA Galaxy on 45. San Jose on 44. Portland on 43. Dallas also on 43. Timbers have a game in hand, and they have one more win than Dallas. I think Kansas City's lost. They're done. Colorado's lost. They're done. So it's 8 fighting for 7 spots, and it's honestly 6 fighting for, or it's 7 fighting for 6 spots from 2 to 8, because Seattle, Minnesota, RSL, I could see that in any order, honestly. I think probably more likely to see Minnesota or Seattle ahead of RSL, but I could see that going any which way. I could see the Galaxy falling out of the playoffs. I could see San Jose falling out of the playoffs. I didn't think I could see Portland falling out of the playoffs, but their home form lately, yeah, I could see Portland falling out of the playoffs. Dallas, I could see missing the playoffs.
Yep.
I think the bottom 4 in the group of 8, I could see any of them missing out. I don't think RSL misses out. I think they're good enough to hold on to a spot. Could they fall out of the top 4? Yep. I don't think Minnesota falls out of the top 4. I don't think Seattle falls out of the top 4. I think Seattle has gotten points that they had to get. They've righted the ship, because I thought Seattle was one that could tumble out. I think now they've got enough of a cushion, 6 points. They'll be okay. They could fall out of the 4 maybe, but I think they won't, just because I don't know if the Galaxy, San Jose, Portland, or Dallas can grab one of the top 4 spots. I could see Seattle dropping points, but I could see the bottom 4 in the group of 8 drop more points. It feels like the West is going to be just stupid. Just absolutely stupid the rest of the way. Everybody, with the exception of Portland, is on 30 matches played that's fighting for playoff spots. Portland has 1 extra game, and they're going to play that on Wednesday. We're going to take a break. We'll look at the other 2 games tomorrow night. Portland hosting the Red Bulls, Seattle hosting Dallas, and we'll get into the Twitter timeline right after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, September 17th. Getting set for 2 other midweek games. Atlanta goes to Cincinnati tomorrow. Portland hosting the New York Red Bulls. Red Bulls, I'm assuming, have already busted their way into Portland. I think they probably did that yesterday. That was an interesting one when I heard that. I mean, I don't know how long of a bus ride that is. I want to say it's a couple hours. It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's a really short flight. The bus, that's fine. I don't have a big problem with it. I'll be curious to see what people say. I'll be curious to see if any players have anything to say, and I'll be curious to see if that becomes something that people throw shade at. I think it'd be a little bit of a reach. I think it's about a 2-hour drive, if I'm not mistaken, between Portland and Seattle. I don't know if you're doing math right now or not.
I am. I'm doing Google Maps and going stadium.
Yes. I think it's 2, maybe 2.5. That'll be an interesting bus ride after the way they lost in Seattle. Wonder what kind of conversations are being had on said bus for the Red Bulls heading down to Portland. You look at the numbers in this. The Red Bulls have not been great defensively on the road. Over 2.5 goals scored in 8 of New York's last 9 away games. They've lost their last 3 in a row. They've conceded at least twice in their last 3 matches. It has not been good as of late for the Red Bulls. Portland, well, we talked about it. They've lost 3 at home out of their last 5. That's a little surprising. Back in March, the Red Bulls really dominated Portland. They won 4-0. I don't think anything like that happens here. I would lean to a Portland win at home, but I'm not entirely convinced of the Timbers at the moment.
Stadium to stadium, it's 173 miles, so the Google Maps are saying just under 3 hours because of traffic, obviously, getting out of Seattle.
A little bit longer than I thought. So, it was they probably did it Sunday night then, because it was a 3 o'clock local time match. Should have been done at 5. They're probably getting out of the venue at 6:30. You're down and sleeping in Portland. Yeah, that's absolutely doable.
Juicebox purveyors, by the way, have Portland even money to win.
Okay.
Red Bulls plus 240, draw plus 275.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a Portland win. I think the Red Bulls are a little broken. But, you know, the thing about New York, and this is just what you have to factor in when you think about them historically, they have stood up over the years in these types of moments and gotten a big result. And the Timbers, Julio Cascante listed as out, Larry Mabiala listed as out. You didn't see Sebastian Blanco or Brian Fernandez in the match on the weekend. Will they be back? There's injury concerns with the Timbers. Both teams have their backs against the walls in different ways. I think being at home helps Portland, and they find a way to get the 3 here. Seattle and Dallas. Dallas coming off of a trip to Chicago where they were just blitzed. Now they go to Seattle. Seattle have won their last 6 home matches against Dallas in all competitions. Oof. Seattle, all kinds of goals scored at CenturyLink. Over 2.5 goals scored in Seattle's last 6 at home. And it's been the same in their last 6 times when they've hosted Dallas. So expect goals. Take the over. Seattle have scored at least 3 goals in their last 3 at home. That's nuts. Good grief. Dallas, on the flip side, have been shut out in 5 of their last 7 on the road. Oh, boy. Dallas have failed to win 10 of their last 11 on the road. It feels like a Seattle win. I mean, I still am not convinced of them from an attacking or from a defending perspective. They can score goals, but can they defend? Dallas, they got to find something that they haven't shown in a little while. They were really bad in Chicago, and that sets a bad tone for this one. I think Seattle wins like 3-1 or 4-1.
Yeah, I have Ladero and Morris in fantasy. Sounders minus 143. FC Dallas and the draw option are both plus 320.
Yeah, I don't think either one lines up very good for the away teams in these. When you look at fantasy, and we'll touch on that real quick, our fantasy league sponsored by Jason Wright of the Jason Wright Agency. Make sure you're following him, Jason Wright, AGEN, on Twitter, Jason Wright Agency on Facebook. You've got 6 teams with double game weeks. Atlanta, 1 on the road, 1 at home. Cincinnati, 2 at home. You might find a bargain pick there. Portland, 2 at home. Red Bulls and Minnesota coming into Providence Park. Red Bulls home on the weekend are hosting Philadelphia, and the away trip to Portland tomorrow. Seattle at home Wednesday, but then they go to D.C. on Sunday. Cross-country trip for the Sounders. Dallas in Seattle, and then they host NYC on Sunday. I mean, probably Portland, but the injury concerns might make it a little bit tricky to find those double picks. Steve Clark, maybe, is one to keep in mind. Atlanta with a winnable away game in Cincinnati and then hosting San Jose at home. Those kind of line up good. So when you're looking at fantasy picks, those are your 6 teams to really keep an eye on when you're doing this. We'll get into prize picks in hour number 2 if the board is up. The board could be up for other things as well, and we'll get you updated. I believe Kevsey had a question about the playoff picture.
Yes, right. Kevsey says, time to admit the slightly early predictions I had were wrong. DC will make the playoffs. I thought Acosta was leaving, and though they were hurt by his absence at times, they are improved. Minnesota in was right. Montreal in and Dallas out. TBD. # Tuesday Thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, DC righted the ship, and I didn't think DC was going to be able to do that. They have with 2 big clean sheet wins on the road. Now, can they continue it? We'll see. I said New England would make the playoffs. I'm not feeling super strong about that. They're really teetering on it, but somebody out of Montreal, Chicago, and Orlando is going to have to take it away from them, and that's not exactly an easy thing to do for those 3 either. The Red Bulls losing 3 in a row, they're teetering a bit, but I think they've got enough of a cushion on Montreal, Chicago, Orlando that both of them can get in. Looking out west, I mean, I thought Seattle would fall out, but 3 wins out of their last 4, they've been able to overcome a bad defense and stay in the number 2 spot. Minnesota, I thought would get in. RSL, I thought would get in. I thought the Galaxy could fall out, but Sporting and Colorado haven't been able to step up higher, and Dallas is the one. That loss in Chicago, that's just the one that kind of, like, gets all of your attention when you're looking at the rest of the Western Conference, because it's one thing to go on the road to Chicago and lose. All right, Chicago's fighting for a playoff spot. They're not a bad team. We've talked about it all year. Like, their expected goals, their expected assists, like, all those numbers have been high, and they haven't been getting goals that you would expect, and they've been giving up more than you would expect. It feels like they've been playing better than the results have been. Okay, so it's not crazy for Dallas to go to Chicago and lose. But to lose 4-0 and give up 4 goals in the first half.
Yeah. Yes.
That is, whoa. Why did the wheels fall off? Were the lug nuts not attached properly? What happened?
Correct.
That's the one that scares you if you're looking at the West. So Dallas has got to step up and show you something tonight. If they have back-to-back bad losses on the road, I think your 7 in the West are your 7 in the West. If Dallas, though, steps up and pulls a surprise and goes to Seattle and takes advantage of their bad defense, because it's a bad defense, and gets a win tonight, well, then everything's out of whack and just who knows what. Because Dallas, if they win in Seattle on Wednesday, they would move into 5th place. They'd be even with RSL in 4th on points. It's that big of a jump. If Dallas and Portland win on Wednesday, both are on 46, then you have Seattle on 49, Minnesota on 48, RSL, Portland, and Dallas on 46, LA on 45, San Jose on 44, outside. How crazy would that be? That's what the West could be on Wednesday. So, we shall see. We're going to get more into the Twitter timeline on the other side of the break. It's a Tuesday Thoughts edition. Use the hashtag. Tweet at us at SoccerDown here. We will be right back.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky and Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. Thanks for sticking with us this morning after some technical difficulties. We have done too much content. We ran out of space. No, there is such a thing because this show didn't fire off live. And we did a whole segment about Louis Vuitton taking over AC Milan, and you thought they just did belts and handbags.
All the man purses for AC Milan.
I mean, yeah, they would get the man purse for sure for travel. I mean, that's just part of the deal. But if Louis Vuitton takes over AC Milan, whew.
The price of those kits?
Well, no, they're not going to make the kits. I don't think. I think they're going to stick with Adidas or Puma, or I think they're Puma right now, aren't they? Is it Milan Puma? I believe they are. They have been Adidas. I think they're going to stick with that. But the game day suit game is going to be off the charts.
Could you imagine sitting there and walking off the bus in a Louis Vuitton suit with matching handbag?
You really hung up on the handbag thing. It's convenient. Carry your stuff.
Is it a handbag or is it a man purse?
I believe if it's Louis Vuitton, it would be a handbag, sir.
Yes, AC Milan is Puma.
Yes. Yeah, they would easily win for best dressed team in Serie A.
Oof.
That's not even.
And think about everybody who would want to go to AC Milan, A, to play at AC Milan, and then B, the wardrobe allotment.
The Louis Vuitton suits with the AC Milan badge on them would be quite nice. They would be of the highest order for sure. So you missed that. We tried to recap it for you right there. You missed that because we had done too much content and our library was full. But we are back, and we will have just about an hour for you to finish things up on a Tuesday edition. Tomorrow, it will be the All-Star edition in the morning with recorded interviews, getting you set for Atlanta and Cincinnati. Mike Conti and I will have your afternoon Q&A live from White Castle.
Oh,
then,
that's so awesome.
Yeah, it's not going to be like Harold and Kumar at White Castle. I can promise you that.
No.
We will be at White Castle, and we will be taking your questions live on the Soccer Down Here app. Tomorrow evening, you can listen to us on 92.9 The Game. You can have that in one ear. You can listen to John and Jarrett in the other ear with Atlanta United 2 on ESPN Plus from Kennesaw State. All these stuff. And later this afternoon, too, we have stoppage time because we can't do it on a Wednesday like we normally do. We'll be doing stoppage time this afternoon at 2 o'clock on the 92.9 The Game Facebook page. All kinds of things. There is so much stuff. And we got to talk about this thing that came out of the Philadelphia Inquirer today, or yesterday, actually. Jonathan Tannenwald wrote a great piece about the Philadelphia Union and where they stand right now after big results, after big statement games, after showing that They can beat Atlanta at home. They can draw with LAFC. They are one of the best teams in Major League Soccer in 2019.
But hey.
They are right there. No, it's not a but hey. I don't think that's fair at all. They are one of the best teams in the league. Flat out.
No doubt.
Now, here's what they have coming up. 3 road games, all in the span of 8 days. They are at the New York Red Bulls on Sunday in New Jersey. That's an easy trip. They are at San Jose on September 25th, midweek next week. At Columbus on September 29th. They come back home and they host NYC on Decision Day. 3 games, 8 days. Not using any charter flights. And to add to this, because this has been a conversation for a long time, need more charter flights, need more charter flights, need more charter flights. The Philadelphia Union have not used a charter flight all season.
Wow.
That's why it's not just a simple conversation about needing more charter flights. They haven't used one. Now, I'm not up with what options Philadelphia has to fly. I'm not sure how many different flights they have to how many different cities and what kind of options they have. We've talked about it from the Atlanta perspective before. Atlanta being the airport that it is, there's times where you don't necessarily need a charter flight because you can do what you want to do commercially and you're fine. I don't know if Philadelphia's in that situation or not. I'm not up on the Philadelphia airport scene. So I will put my hand up on that one. Statement from Ernst Tanner, the sporting director for Philadelphia. We checked both options and are very comfortable with our commercial travel plans next week. Between direct flights and the opportunity to stay overnight in San Jose after the game, we are able to fully maximize our regeneration opportunities. The regeneration time in San Jose is the most critical part of the road trip for the team to be fully rested and ready to compete in 3 games in 8 days. Okay, so they're going to stay overnight in San Jose. One thing from Jonathan's article that does have to factor in when he mentioned the San Jose part specifically, chartering out of San Jose to Columbus. What time is the game in San Jose? I'm looking. This actually is very important because this was something that came up last year for Atlanta. San Jose and Philadelphia, it's an 11 o'clock game. They can't charter out of San Jose. Why, you ask? There is a flight departure restriction out of the airport, which is right next to the stadium. You can watch planes taking off from the press box. There is a departure time restriction at that airport after, I believe, 8 o'clock. I think it's 8. It might be 9. Atlanta played San Jose in a game last year at Avaya that was pushed back to an 11 o'clock start in the East Coast for TV, and there was no way that we were going to be able to make the charter out of San Jose. Now, what we did was bust to San Francisco and chartered out of San Francisco and came back. Philadelphia is opting to stay overnight in San Jose. That's one thing to keep in mind. It is a little more complicated than just, well, they could go to the airport next door. Well, that's what we hoped for, too, and that didn't happen.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Found the info. City of San Jose established and began enforcing a noise-based curfew program during the hours of 11:30 p.m. and 6:30 a.m., which allows aircraft certificated by the FAA at a noise level at or below 89 decibels, average of takeoff, sideline, and approach. So 11:30.
It's 11 o'clock. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, 11 p and 7 a.
Okay, got it. So, yeah, the game's at 8 o'clock local, be over at 10. You're not going to be able to get off the ground on a charter that fast after a game. There are showers and food and things that have to happen after games. So you'd have to charter out of San Francisco, which is doable. We did it last year. It still adds another complication. So Tanner said that the big thing they wanted was the regeneration time in San Jose. So I'm assuming they are staying overnight. They're doing regen probably in San Jose and then coming back to get to Philadelphia in the evening. We'll have to look at flight schedules, but it's not that big of a deal. Late afternoon, early evening is what you would guess. So this is an interesting spot, and it's even more interesting when Alejandro Bedoya tweets this out last night, because there was a conversation Herculez Gomez brought up about getting rid of TAM and raising the salary cap and all that type of stuff. And Alejandro Bedoya quote tweeted Gomez and said, "We play 3 straight away games next week. Have to fly to San Jose for a midweek game. I'm pretty sure you can still demand charter flights for these types of trips/games while also trying to eliminate 3-letter acronyms and increasing the salary cap." Because Gomez said charter flights are not as important. Getting rid of TAM and raising the cap was the important thing. Bedoya's like, you can do both. And he brought up the trip. The problem is Philadelphia has charter flights available, and they're not using them. It's not just as simple in the league as saying, take the restriction off charter flights. Teams have to use the full allotment, and not everybody does. The Athletic surveyed teams league-wide earlier this year to ask how many of them used the full allotment of 4 flights in 2018. 16 teams responded. Only 4 said yes. And if I remember correctly, I don't think Atlanta did. I don't think there was a time that they really needed to use the 4th one. I think they used 3, if I remember right. It's not always a necessity, and it's not always a situation where you have to fly charter every time.
But I think it's a good one to have, especially late in the year in the Philadelphia situation, just as an example.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think in this situation, I'm a little surprised they're not. Now, let's go back through the trip real quick, because on paper, you hear that, you're like, oh, wow, that sounds terrible. Let's try to work through it a little bit. So they're playing in Harrison on Sunday. They're coming back Sunday night after the game. It is what time? 6:30 kick in Harrison. Game will be over 8:30. You'll get out of there probably 9:30. How long of a trip is that from Harrison to Philly? We're doing a lot of Google Maps today. It's one of those days on the show.
We'll do Google Maps here.
Yeah, couple hours. I mean, it's roughly. I think that's safe. So you're going to get back midnight. Let's just throw that out there. You're going to get back at midnight. And then you're going to fly to San Jose on Monday. You're going to train there on Tuesday. I wonder what your schedule is. I guess you're going to try to regen in Philly Monday after the Sunday game. Fly Monday to San Jose. Train there on Tuesday. Play Wednesday. Regen there Thursday. Then fly back to Philadelphia. Then go to Columbus for the game on the 29th. So get back to Philly Thursday, train Friday, fly to Columbus Saturday, play Sunday.
2 hours from Red Bull to Talon.
That's if you're driving it.
Right.
I don't know if you could fly Newark back after the game. It's possible. We'll just assume that it's not. I don't know. They'll be back in Philly Sunday night. We know that much. Either way, it's doable. It's not ideal at this point. If you chartered, what would you take out of it? I don't think you're going to charter from New Jersey back to Philly. Let's take that one out. The charter one that you would think about would be coming back from San Jose. And that would put you in Philadelphia early Thursday morning, as opposed to getting back sometime Thursday after doing regen in San Jose in the morning. how much of a difference is that? Now, from an hour standpoint, it's not a crazy amount, honestly. It's not like this huge difference in what you're going to do, especially you get your region in San Jose. From a comfort level standpoint, it is. It's a big deal. And this is all assuming that you don't have any delays, anything weird happen, because that's the stuff that's out of your control. Like the logistics, yeah, I get it on their point. Like I understand, like, okay, they're going to get to region. All right. Yeah, it's not as crazy as it might sound when you hear 3 games in a row, no charters. But if anything goes wrong on flight schedules, delays, stuff that's just completely out of your control, then it has a huge effect. Mm-hmm. And that's where you're at this point.
And that to me, especially this time of year, late in the regular season, heading toward the postseason, I understand to this point not having used a leg, and that's what it is, right? It's 4 legs. It's not 4 trips.
4 legs, yes.
So outbound and back, a round trip is 2 legs, just so people understand it's 4 legs, 4 separate ideas. But I understand not using them to this point in the season, or maybe using one, especially with awful turnaround times and things like that. But this late in the year, with schedule compression, with the playoff race meaning what it is, with seeding meaning what it is, then to have the stockpile's great. Not to use it, to me, because you want as much in your control as possible so you can be as close to 100% as you can. That's my question in all of this. Why let someone else be in control of what things that you can control?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple things from some stuff that came out earlier this year. According to Hard Journalist, who covers the Vancouver Whitecaps, they estimate that charter flights cost upwards of $150,000 per charter. And the estimates that are out there is that it would cost $20 million per year for the league to charter everything, and about $1 million per team to charter everything. Remember back in April, Alejandro Bedoya tweeted about the trip from Vancouver. Said, Vancouver's a beautiful city, but we should be flying back to Philly tonight on a red-eye chartered flight to get proper rest for a midweek game and another next Saturday. Then he tweeted out the next day, in the midst of the travel, should have flown out of Vancouver last night after early kickoff. Instead, we wake up at 4:45 a.m., spend all day in airports, connect in Toronto. Oh, that's even worse. And on airplanes with no legroom, cross-country, and just finally landed back in Philly. And he tweeted that at 7:40 on April 28th. Jim Curtin gave some comments on April 24th about charter flights, and he said if you're not recovering right, you're going to have injuries. Charter flights and the ability to get in and out of places quicker and more freely really aid recovery more than anything. That gets us back in our work environment quickly, gets us back in our beds quicker, where sleep is now the most important thing for the body to get going again. That's what the manager of this team said afterwards.
And don't think that players aren't keeping an eye on other players and their social media accounts and want to go to places where there is a perception of, hey, this team is taking care of their players.
Oh, no, absolutely. And this is another thing Bedoya said after the game in Vancouver, and he said this to Hard Journalist. Oh, my gosh, the obvious answer is charter flights. You look at the way we got here. We flew out of Philly with a connecting flight in Chicago. We had to wait sitting on a United airplane. I think they've got to have the smallest legroom in economy. It's just so tight. We land at around 11 at night. We get to the hotel at midnight, which is 3 in the morning Philly time, and eat dinner. It's just ridiculous. It's absurd. Then he said this. There's the obvious answer. That's the obvious answer, charter flights. They need to put their money where their mouth is. I'll never forget about the article Robert Kraft had in Sports Illustrated about why he bought the Patriots a second plane. He's talking about player safety, health, recovery. Here in MLS, we're not there yet. We better be there. The CBA is up, and that's going to be a strong talking point. That's all true, and that's the captain of the Philadelphia Union saying it, and the manager saying that, you know, it helps with recovery, it's good for the players. But if you add charter flights to the CBA, that doesn't change what Philadelphia is doing right now. That doesn't change anything about them not using any charter flights this year, period. They could have used both legs to Vancouver and a leg back from San Jose this year and still had one left over, which I'm sure there's a spot where they could have used it and would have been appropriate and would have helped them out. But there is a cost. I mean, that's flat out. I don't know what the breakdown is on the cost for a commercial flight for the team. I don't know, and it probably varies wildly from market to market. But $150,000 per charter. I don't know if that's if everybody goes all in, you get kind of a bulk rate, because I would assume that if the league did it and did it across the board, you're probably going to get a better rate.
Yeah, with a carrier or with an airline or something like that you would get a deal for just the mass number of charters that you would do.
Yeah, I would assume. So $150,000, I mean, that's, you know, it's $1 million per team, roughly $1 million per team, $20 million for the league. You're not spending that if you're flying commercial. I mean, obviously or you would charter. And teams are going to have to make that decision. And if I agree with putting it in the conversation of recovery and player safety and health and eliminating injuries, because that's the most important element of it. There is convenience to it too, obviously, but this is going to keep coming up. But there's two conversations to be had. There's the conversation about providing more charter options for teams, which is on one side of this. The other is teams using it. And that's something that is going to have to grow for any of the rest of it to matter. I'm a little surprised that they're not using it. I hear Ernst Tanner and I guess the schedules work out okay to come back from San Jose after doing regen on Thursday and having essentially the same day just split on two sides of the country that you would have. I guess that's the way to go. I don't know. I hope they're not connecting through anywhere. That would be horrible.
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't have to do that. Hopefully there's a direct flight from San Jose to Philly coming back, and that makes it a little bit easier. But hopefully they get Alejandro Bedoya some more legroom too, because that stuff does add up. I mean, that's a rough week, and you're going to have more legroom on a charter. It's going to be better for you. It's going to be better for your body if you're a professional athlete. All those things are true. It's not an easy situation, and it's like a lot of things around the league right now. There's a lot of yelling and not a lot of actual constructive, all right, what's the problem? What's the solution? For this one, I think the league needs to go in as a group. I think the league needs to commit to, if they're gonna do this, then they need to do it across the board. I don't think raising the number to like 8 charter flights or something, or 12 or whatever arbitrary number you pick out, I don't think that really does anything. Not if you have a number of teams who aren't using them anyway. I don't think that's the solution. I think the solution is one of two things. It is either a certain length of trip that is automatically chartered, and the league might do the arranging and then pass the cost on. That's fine. But if it's a 3-hour trip, whatever the number is, it's automatically chartered, no questions asked. Or you do everything across the board. I'm down to the point, because I've said it before that, all right, you just open it up and you let teams decide. I don't think you can even go that way. I think the league, if they're going to get the most value out of it, and the teams who do decide to do it are going to get the most value out of it, everyone's going to have to commit to it. And I think that the league has the two options. You either commit to it across the board. If it's a $20 million cost that the league's going to have to invest in and the owners are going to have to invest in, They're going to have to get the buy-in. They're going to have to do it. If they can't get the buy-in, then they need to find the length of flight that they have to do it on. And 3 hours is the one that I've said.
Yeah.
2 time zones, whatever you come up with, whatever distance or number or hour restriction or whatever, there's a certain type of flight that automatically gets chartered. And then the rest, and if you have a 4 charter flight thing and teams want to use it, they can use it. I think it has to be more all-in, though, than we had considered, because right now you've got 4 legs per season, and you've got very few teams using all of them. So the issue is bigger than just how many you get.
Yeah, for me, it's that's the thing. I would go because I am fairly certain that not every ownership group would do the buy-in and go ahead and just sign their names to it. So
it doesn't have to be unanimous. Now, if you're gonna do that, if the league's gonna commit to it, and I don't know what the rules are for this in the Board of Governors, but it doesn't have to be every team that commits to it. If the league commits to the cost, and if it's 2/3, if it's half, I don't know what that is to vote on the voting side. But that's why I'm saying the league needs to take the lead here, because it needs to become an all-in situation or not. And if you can't get the votes to do the all-in, everything's a charter, and you're going to commit to spending that money, because that's a commitment. That's not cheap.
No.
All right. Then the league needs to come back and say, we're not doing that, but we are doing this, where every flight over X amount of hours or miles or whatever is chartered.
Yeah.
And then you can opt in for another 4 or whatever.
Yeah, for me, that's
I think
that 3 hour. Yeah, definitely.
I think they could get the buy-in for that, and I think that would be something that would be a very smart thing for the competitive standpoint. It'd be a very smart thing in terms of CBA negotiation, and I hope they can find whatever that is. This is going to be a big talking point, and you know, you go back to the Herculez Gomez tweet and the Bedoya rebuttal. Is it a bigger issue than the salary cap or TAM or GAM or just overall spending? I don't know. I don't think it is, but I'm not 100% sure of that. I think they're 2 separate issues, and that's why the CBA is pretty complicated. It's not going to be an easy negotiation, and now you're starting to get lots of interviews and statements from players that they are prepared and ready for a work stoppage. If it comes to that, they're saying that they're far more willing to play hardball than they were last time around. We'll see if that's the case. I think the league needs to take this opportunity as well to make some decisions about investment, because in my mind it feels like the league is at a very good opportunity to grow with the right investment, and I hope that the league doesn't pass on that to win the CBA negotiation or keep costs down at a moment where I feel like you could really blow this league up in a good way between now and the 26 World Cup. So when that World Cup happens and when the boom happens during it and after it in 2026, you can be one of the biggest leagues in the world. But if you don't take advantage of the opportunities right now about these types of things, spending more, bringing more top players into the league, paying more in salary to keep players in the league, making the quality of competition better with the charter flights, with things like that, I think you're not going to fully maximize the opportunity in front of you if you're MLS. And it feels like it's not a time that they have to do it or there's a problem. It feels like they would slow down the growth of the league.
Yeah.
In a very short-sighted way. And that's what I'm concerned. I hope they don't do that. I hope there's enough owners that are trying to push this thing forward, and I hope that it continues to grow in the right way, in a responsible way. but in a way that will set this league up for a very big boom in 2026 with the World Cup here.
And that's the key for me, because right now you're at a great point for growth, and you've been doing that, and to continue to have that upswing in your bell curve, this is one of those things that you can tackle with the upcoming CBA. Both sides can come out of this winning. The league can come out of this as a winner if they focus on the larger picture and can see their growth and can see that the growth can continue and the players can continue to better their lives and their positions when it comes to being compensated, taken care of in a league that, I mean, you and I can pretty much agree that right now is the number 5 sport, or 4B, here in the United States. And you're the only one of these that's really growing, period. You have others that are stagnant, that are flatlining in their growth and their expansion of listenership, viewership, what have you. MLS, I think you and I have been saying the entire time that this is the one that's on the up curve right now. And you don't want to do anything to level yourself out with all of the growth and all of the accomplishment that you've done. You're at a point where you can continue that. And it's just a matter of being smart in this negotiation so that curve can continue and the upswing can continue where the exposure of the league is concerned on multiple fronts.
It's a big opportunity for MLS to set themselves up for the right growth ahead of the World Cup coming, and I hope that they take full advantage. Charter flights are part of it. Salary cap's part of it. Rosters, all those things are part of it, and I hope that they're having some big discussions at the league office and among the owners about these things, and not just looking at it in the context of winning a CBA negotiation. We'll see how this goes. It's going to be big storyline the rest of the season and in the off season, and we'll see how it all gets resolved. Let's take a break, come back, finish up with some Tuesday thoughts from you guys, and a couple other things on this day in history. We'll be right back after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, September 17th. Getting ready for midweek action in Major League Soccer tomorrow. Getting ready for Champions League action starting this afternoon. All the things on a Tuesday Thoughts edition of the show. What are the people thinking about?
Well, last night, kind of as a carryover from soccer over there and the Maradona discussion, I just thought it was interesting that Gustavo opened that door and kind of explained things. I just thought that was cool, and he broke that up for us very, very early this morning.
And?
No, it's just that he said he was listening, and he says, for our information in the pool, some numbers have bad meanings, and like the ones that Maradona was trying to eliminate from the backs of his players. He said that the soccer has a tradition of superstitious behaviors between players, refs, coaches, and fans. And I just thought it was interesting that he broke that down for us, as he always does.
Yeah, this is common in different countries where different numbers. That might be Diego calling you right now.
Yes.
You might have heard me like 17 or 13 and said, no, we're not having that in this show. It's not happening. 13 and 17 were the two that Maradona said that there wouldn't be anything to do with 13 and 17 at Gimnasia. And 13 means bad luck, and 17 is related to disgrace. So, yeah, those are not good. I know this was a thing in Brazil as well, where, just different numbers have different meanings, and it can be strange at times. So maybe that had something to do with Diego's number thing. Also, Diego's a little crazy. So sometimes It's a little hard to tell. Is it just Diego being crazy, or is there something else to it, or is it somewhere in between? Usually you can lean towards the Diego being crazy side of any thoughts about anything that happens related to Maradona.
Shiva said that she liked Warshaw's breakdown of Atlanta United after the 3-1 loss to Columbus. She said he was spot on.
Yeah, Warshaw's 24 takeaways for week 28. I agree with him. I think, what he dug into here was, he said, I bet if we could give Frank de Boer truth serum, he would be okay with the 3-1 loss at home to Columbus. And you read that and you're like, what? He gets into how the team had been more conservative early, which I still think is overblown but true. Then it flipped to where they've been so attack-minded and very aggressive and at times very reckless, but they hadn't been punished for it yet. Columbus punished them for it. It's an opportunity now to find the balance again. And when you look at how the season's gone, the successful run of games, April to early June, and in the second run of successful games, they look a little different. The earlier one, very strong defensively, very organized, not as much going forward. You didn't have Ezequiel Barco there, and you were getting a lot of 1-0 tight wins. Second one, you were scoring a bunch of goals. You need to find somewhere in between. And this is a game that we talked about for most of the show yesterday. It's a game where there's a lot of lessons to learn from that Columbus loss, because you gave up goals in a very specific way. You got countered. Why did you get countered? You were impatient in the build-up play. You didn't get organized. You were exposed. You were not disciplined enough defensively, and a team punished you for it. You can learn from that. You can build from that. You can be more patient in the build-up play. You cannot risk a pass at a certain time. There's times to risk. There's times not to risk. We mentioned it yesterday. I go back to Pep Guardiola saying that it takes 15 passes to be organized in the other team's half. That might be a little on the excessive side, but can you get organized quicker? Yeah, you probably can. Not a whole lot quicker, though. I mean, there are limitations here. Like, if you go fast to try to get a goal and you go with speed with a lot of numbers, well, the ball's going to come back at you very quickly, and you're not going to be in position if you turn it over. If you go with patience and you go with build-up play, and yes, some side-to-side passes, you're going to be able to get forward in a more organized way to where if the ball turns over, you're in a position to do one of two things. Either win it back quickly because you have numbers there surrounding the ball, or to recover and defend in an organized way. What we've seen a lot lately has been get everybody forward, and then Miles Robinson has to bail everybody out. That's a lot of pressure, and that's not the life you want. You want to be a little more structured. And I hope that this game, this loss, these goals that they conceded to Columbus provide an opportunity to reinforce the patience, the organization, the intelligence in the way that you play. Atlanta can play that way. They have this season in, kind of two different flavors of it. Just got to find the right one now to be more organized, because teams will do what Columbus did as you get towards the postseason. That's a very typical way that teams will approach postseason soccer. Atlanta did it last year. Others will do it to Atlanta. New England will definitely do it on decision day. It fits New England like a glove. I don't know if NYC will do it, but they might. They're going to take lessons from what Columbus did. San Jose will take lessons somewhat from it. San Jose has a very different system. They want to play their way. But to look out wide to attack, yeah, 100%. They're going to look in those gaps behind the wingbacks, and they're going to try to play into those gaps. So Atlanta's going to have to learn from this loss, and hopefully it gives Frank de Boer that lesson that he can then pass on to the players and get it right. And these are the things that managers look for. I think he can take a lot from this, and hopefully he can transmit it to the squad.
Also on the board this morning, Daniel Price needs some advice.
Uh-oh.
Asks if we've ever done Korean barbecue. He's going to one for his birthday tonight. He says, lots of delicious food cooked on an open grill in front of you. You can either cook yourself or have your waiter do it for you. What do we do for birthday meals?
I have not been to a Korean barbecue, but that sounds delicious. I do like Korean barbecue when I've ordered it from places. I haven't been to a place that does it in that way that Daniel's talking about. I've been to places that have it, or places that have Korean-inspired barbecue or what have you. I like it. It's a little different. I would like to check that out. So I think some people chimed in with different restaurants to check out. So I will be following that thread and making sure that I write some things down. That's definitely an option. I mean, for me, like a birthday meal, some of it depends on the mood. But I'm going to get something that I want and I like. And that's...
If you have one place to have a birthday meal, what are you doing for a birthday meal?
That was ridiculous, because I was about to answer it. Unlike some people who don't answer it, I'm going to go have Mexican food if I get to choose, because that is my favorite kind of food.
If I'm on this side of the country?
Yeah, here we go.
Seriously.
No, this is going to take 20 minutes to not answer the question.
Not at all. Not at all. If I'm on this side of the country, because there are some years when I am, some years when I'm not. This side of the country, there's a pizza place that I have been to ever since I've been growing up. I mean, I literally grew up on this pizza and had their Monday night special. So I go to that pizza place if I'm on this side of the world. If I am in Southern California, and if we are staying at the resort that we usually stay at, the Boss and I, there is a restaurant that has my name attached to it. I am not related to it. I have no stake in the restaurant, but that is where we go, and you get a nice view of Catalina Island if the marine layer does not exist. So those two places, depending on which coast I'm on.
Well, there you go. That's the most specific food answer you've ever had. I like it. You didn't name the places, though. You could have given them some pub.
Okay, well, it's Moe's Pizza at Briarcliff and Claremont. And
okay, yeah, that's good. I like Moe's.
The Monday special, usually for me, it's a whole wheat crust pizza. Usually I get pepperoni, extra cheese on whole wheat, and it's good for another couple of days. It's for breakfasts and things.
Okay.
And then it is the Nelson's restaurant, no relation, at the Terranea Resort in the suburbs of Los Angeles.
All right. And do you want to explain why Southern California is such a key part of this one?
Well, I was born there. Half of my
what
family is there.
There you go.
So it's a chance to go back to this resort that it's 10 years old, but when I was growing up was the old Marineland property in Los Angeles. And there's a municipal golf course at the top of the hill where when I was a kid and played rounds of golf with my dad, we would try to go to the end of the 12th green, which at the time did not have a whole lot of houses below it. and launch balls from the back of the green off of a tee and try to hit them into Marineland.
All right. How much did you succeed?
Physically impossible, but you never stop trying.
Yeah. There you go. Article I want to get into just a little bit over at Forbes. Ian Quillen, who's also written for MLSsoccer.com. The title is A 16-Game Schedule and More Ideas MLS Should Borrow from the NFL. Interesting. Here's his ideas. More detail over at Forbes.com. Ian says, play a 16-game schedule twice a year. Okay. And here's his points. He says that the two-conference format will be nearly impossible to maintain as the league grows to 30 or more teams. You got logistical hurdles with international competitions, transfer windows, yada, yada, yada. Warm weather, cold weather, all that stuff. He says you could consider doing what Liga MX and other leagues in CONCACAF do, which is the Apertura Clausura type of situation. Have the playoffs be the single leg in each one, which I disagree with. I think you can still do 2 legs over aggregate goals in that because Liga MX does it and it works well. But I don't think that's stupid. I wonder how your average sports fan in the United States would grab onto it.
Right. That's my point.
That's the only thing that I wonder about. And I don't know if you have to structure your league based around that, but I think it's something you factor in. If you explain it properly, I think it could work really well. I think it creates it creates more trophies. One thing that it's done in leagues that have it is it creates more of a short-term mentality, which can be bad. You see more managerial changes. You see teams blow themselves up quicker because you've got another league to win. You got the league, 16 games, you get to the postseason. All right, you didn't win that one. Fire everybody. Let's start again. We're going to try it again in 6 months. And it gets all craziness. So I'm not against it. I don't think it'll happen. I think it would be something that certain sports editors and certain people who still have influence in those departments would poo-poo and call dumb and yell about. And I don't know if that's something that the league needs, even though I think it can work if you basically do it where you play if you do it in a calendar year, you play from early February through mid-May. Your playoffs end at the end of May. You're off for June. You're off for July. You come back and you start in August, and you play through the beginning of December or end of November. You can do that. You can do it from a calendar perspective in the current format. You can. It's a little trickier, but you can do it. You don't have to separate it into 2 different leagues, and I think you can still get the same benefit out of it. Next thing that Ian says is flex more TV games. 100%. 100%. It's something that needs to happen. Now, it's something that adds some complication, and the reason the NFL can do it and others can't necessarily do it is because you have local broadcasts to deal with. The NFL, everything's a national broadcast, so it's easy to flex stuff. You might be sending different announcers somewhere, but that's easy. Or a different network is carrying it. For MLS and local broadcasts, that can be really tricky, and I don't know how that looks. I think the flex window needs to continue to grow. I think it has this year. I think it's not just the last couple weeks. I want to say it's the last month maybe that there's flex. But, yeah, I think it's something that needs to happen because you always get that dud that happens late in the season when you don't have the flex schedule with 2 teams that were expected to be good or 1 team that was expected to be challenging for a title, and they have a bunch of injuries and have a bad year, and the game really isn't that meaningful. Would always happen. More flex would be good, I think.
Love the idea of more flex. Just because, if you're locked into certain things and you see that a game from the beginning of the year when you had your schedule laid out is going to turn into a bit of a dog and you don't want to do it, but something has popped up on the screen that you think would be far better viewing, you ought to have the ability, at least, 2 weeks out or something, to sit there and say, okay, we're going to go here, as opposed to locking in our schedule.
A couple things as we finish up with Ian's article. Tweets from Doug Robertson, from Felipe Cardenas, from Chris Furmeister. Barco not training with the first team today. Probably a fair guess that he will not be going to Cincinnati. George Bello is training with the first team. Keep that in mind. Frank DeBoer will be speaking to the media here in a bit, and follow all of those folks, and Joe Patrick and everybody else in the Atlanta United media world for quotes from Frank DeBoer and players after training. Another thing Ian suggests that MLS can learn from the NFL, allow for alternate uniforms again. You've had some teams that have had third kits in MLS before. They got away from it. Portland and Seattle did. Chicago had a great one with the city flag. That was a great one back in the day. If there are some teams that don't sell enough kits to have a third kit, fine, you don't get a third kit. If there are teams that you can make money by having a third kit, why are you not having a third kit?
I'm down with that one completely. If your market and your economics can sustain multiple kits, can sustain a third, if there's demand for it, then you ought to be able to have that door open for you. If your marketing and your kits and your audience doesn't give you that number, then no. If you can't sustain it, then don't jump on after it. But if you can, and people are ravenous for what you can do and the imagination that you can put behind a third kit, more power to you.
If you can sell it, great. And the thing about MLS with the structure is everybody's sharing in it. So why are you leaving money on the table? If Columbus isn't selling enough kits to get a third kit, sorry, they don't get a third kit. If Atlanta can sell a third kit and make more money for everybody in the collective, then make more money for everybody in the collective, including Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
Do it. Atlanta will make more money because it's their kit. But if Columbus gets a cut of more money that wasn't there before, why are they going to say no? Next one from Ian. Start games when they start. Sometimes games listed for a 3:30 p.m. kick. For a 3:30 p.m. start, kick at 3:38. Sometimes they kick at 3:55. Sometimes it's somewhere in between. Yes. I agree with this completely. Just make it clear. And I don't know from a TV perspective. I know why it happens, because you have sometimes the networks will put the game in a 150-minute window, and they'll put that as the whole game broadcast and include and shoehorn in a pregame and a postgame. Sometimes it's when a network has a doubleheader and they kind of split the difference for pregame and postgame between the two games, so you get awkward start times. I think you're at a point, and I don't know from a sales standpoint, I don't know from a advertising standpoint, but can you not break it into the game is going to kick at 3:30, and we're going to have a pregame show on TV at 3?
You just fixed your sentence structure right there.
But no. The question is this: can you get the same money on advertising sales in the pregame show?
Probably
as
not.
It is structured, than if it is in a game broadcast that is structured in a 150-minute window.
Probably not.
Well, then that's why you do it. I mean, then that's why it is what it is. I would love some consistency in it. Can we get consistent start times? That would be great. It's hard, I know, and you have windows and you have time zones and you have stadium availability, but it's always hard to know, like, okay, is it a 7 o'clock game? Is it a 7:30 game midweek? On a Saturday, is it a 7 o'clock kick? Is it a 7:30 kick? Stuff like that. Can we get a little more consistency? And I don't like the start time dilemma, but if it is an advertising sales thing, well, there's your answer. And I understand it, because you don't have the same in-game advertising that you do in an MLS game that you do for an NFL game. Obviously, you don't have commercial breaks.
Yeah.
So
and what you're doing is you're bridging you're bridging and hedging your advertisers, because during the match you only can attach it to the scoreboard bug at the top, or do a picture-in-picture, or do some kind of a lower third graphic. And I know this is getting kind of TV-ish, but
no, it's an important element to it, and that's what people don't get, I think, sometimes when we have this discussion. It's not as simple as just saying, just do a pregame show that is the 30 minutes before and then do this, because you can't sell the pregame show the same way you can sell the match broadcast.
Yeah, because, I mean, think about it when you're watching something like Monday Night Football. You have the pregame last night as your example. You had the pregame show, Monday Night Countdown, or whatever they call it now, with Susie Colbert, Randy Moss, whoever else is on, Lewis Bullock, and that. And then at 8 o'clock, you have another sponsored element of the Monday Night Football pre-kick, or whatever they call it. NBC does the same thing on Sunday night. And you would think top of the hour, okay, you run your open, then you go to the alternate open with the alternate sponsor for your pregame show. And soccer, all you have is kick, scoreboard graphic, promotional opportunities at the bottom of the screen. You can't duck away. So what you end up doing is taking that 150-minute, 2.5-hour window, saying, here's when our broadcast window starts, not referring to it as a pregame show. You're within the game window, but you're doing pregame elements, and that's when you get your commercials and your other sponsored elements that you can tie into the broadcast itself. I hope that didn't get too TV-ish.
No, it needs to get TV-ish, because that's why it's not as simple as just saying, like, we'll start at this time and that's just how it is. It's not that easy. So, and no, I mean, and this is where I get frustrated, because it is a complicated situation. It's not a simple one. And to say, treat your product seriously, that's how consumers will treat it. Just ask the people who run Europe's biggest leagues in the FIFA World Cup, which also operate with precise kickoff times. Yeah, you're talking about a different type of TV money. You're talking about a whole lot more TV money, and you don't have that money right now. So broadcast networks have to maximize advertising revenue. And if this is how they do it, this is how they do it. My solution would be national broadcast windows would be 150 minutes, period. Across the board, because right now that's not the case. Right now, sometimes it's 2 hours, sometimes it's 2.5. You don't know. You have to check the guide, and you have to look and see, okay, well, is it a 2.5-hour window? Okay, cool. Then kickoff will be here. Oh, it's just a 2-hour window. All right, it'll be eight minutes after the start time. Stuff like that. Just make it consistent. If it's Fox, if it's ESPN, if it's TUDN, it's 150 minutes. And that's how you package it. And that's how you sell it. That's how you add the advertising. You can do what ESPN does, where their pregame segment, it was the Heineken Soccer Showcase or something like that, or Heineken MLS Showcase. I can't remember what the actual branding was, but it was sponsored by Heineken. Sometimes it would be 3 minutes. Sometimes it would be 10. Make it a 150-minute window, and then all right, if every national broadcast is 150 minutes, kickoff time will be at this point in the window, 15 minutes in, 10 minutes in, whatever, and have that consistency. The kickoff time thing, I'm not going to be that guy and scream about, well, it says it's 3:30 and it's 3:38. I don't care about that. I just want consistency. And I want the networks to be able to make as much money as possible. So make it consistent across the board, 150 minutes, and then your start time is 12, 15 minutes, whatever it is, to package everything in, and you have pregame and you have postgame. Because what I hate more than anything than the start time is when you're going to watch a big game on national TV and you get, a very quick open, you get your lineups, game kicks off, and after the game, you're rushing out to get to the next show. Like, give me something. Like, give me a little bit of post-game commentary. Give me a little bit of pre-game commentary to set things up. That makes it a better production. That treats it more seriously. So make it a 150-minute window. That way you can get pre-game, you can get post-game, and you've got more cushion for crazy amounts of stoppage time, which, look, is becoming more of a thing with VAR. You're going to have more stoppage time. So you're going to need longer windows anyway. Make it 150 minutes. Then everybody knows, all right, it's going to start 10 minutes after the broadcast starts. It's going to start 12 minutes. It's going to start 15 minutes, whatever it is. Then you just have consistency. That's the issue more than the start time. It's the consistency to me.
Jorge B. along those lines said the TV ratings for Atlanta United this weekend were very low compared to other markets. I believe it's not the product, but instead I blame it on the lack of marketing. It is difficult to find ESPN Plus and the blackouts to the local viewers. How would you fix the issue?
Well, I think the thing that Jorge B is referencing, I saw Joe Patrick tweet it out yesterday. I don't know if it's comparing it to other markets. Like, I don't know what the ratings for Atlanta Columbus was versus other games in other markets because it was a locally broadcast game. So I don't really have a basis for comparison there. I would think because it's probably pretty typical that this time of year a game like that does get lost in the shuffle a little bit with
college football, Atlanta Braves, all that.
Yeah. It happens and it will happen. It's okay. That's the tough part about the calendar. I mean, if you flip it and you go fall to spring, then you're going to have big games at the end of the year. They're going to be bumping up against the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs, and that's not easy either. Is that better? Maybe. It might be. I don't know if it necessarily solves the problem. So I don't really have that basis for comparison. The thing about ESPN Plus, right now there's blackouts in local markets because they're trying to drive people to the local televised game on Fox Sports South, Fox Sports Southeast, and the same in other markets. Does that change down the road at some point? It could. I mean, there's always the talk about MLS bundling local broadcast rights into one big deal. Now, what would that mean? Would that mean that everything, if you want to watch the league, you have to go to ESPN Plus? I hope not. I think being on over-the-air TV is a good thing. And if teams can do it, then that helps their awareness. If you're not on traditional radio, if you're not on traditional TV, I think it's very easy to be a ghost in that market. Chicago, for example, Mansueto, the new owner, has said that more awareness for the team is a big part of what he wants to do, and part of that would be being back on local TV. All their games are on ESPN Plus. They don't have a local TV market. I don't know if lifting the blackout on ESPN Plus, I don't know what kind of an effect that would have. It would take people away from Fox Sports Southeast, and that's not good. But would it raise the overall level of people watching the Atlanta United game that's on a local broadcast? Yeah, it would. Because there are some people who don't get Fox Sports South or Fox Sports Southeast and want to watch the game, and they have ESPN Plus, and they can't because it's blacked out. There's not easy solutions here because TV, I mean, John, you can speak to this better than I can. It's far more complicated than it used to be with these kind of deals.
Mm-hmm.
With now you have to factor in, you know, if you're MLS, you're factoring in national broadcasts, you're factoring in local broadcasts, you're factoring in national streaming rights out of market, you're factoring in local streaming rights in the market.
Yep.
You've got Fox and all of the complications with the Fox regional networks. You've got ESPN Plus. You've got local broadcasters outside of the ESPN world and the Fox regional world. It's not easy to find a one-size-fits-all solution.
No, and I believe that that's one of the reasons that they've kind of laid out any kind of contract renewals with any kind of broadcast affiliate over the air as they get ready for the new CBA and the new TV negotiations and things like that that are coming up.
Separate. The CBA is now, the TV stuff can't start until 2021 with negotiations because the current deal runs through the 2022 season.
Yeah. So you've got to lay out for another 2 years before any of this stuff gets discussed. And you see where things are now with all of the separate divisions that have to be looked at and all of the separate networks that have ties to teams and regions and those who want to be national partners and don't think that between now and 2021, things aren't going to change even more. And it's going to come up with some very, very both tough and interesting decisions that the league is going to have to figure out. Is the league going to be the head of the umbrella and everyone has to, everyone, meaning Flow and the FSN regionals and all of the locals? It's all of these different parts of the spider web that have to do with over the air. And then you have radio involved and all of that. There are a lot of different questions, and it's going to get, I think, even more interesting and more complicated as you get toward the discussion point of 2021. I mean, think of how things have changed for MLS in the last 2 years, period, with all of these different providers and all of these different ways to access things. You have to wait another 2 years. Think about how things could change astronomically and exponentially, I would think, between now and then. It's going to be one of the more interesting discussions for rights fees, for providers, for exclusivity. And this is, it's a good problem to have if you're MLS, because we've talked about where the league is right now, but it's something that has to be addressed and looked at very, very carefully if you're going to continue to grow the way you have.
Yeah, it opens up a lot of possibilities with the cord cutting and different ways that people are consuming television now. I mean, live sports is a huge driver in whatever you opt to do. If it's cable, if it's Sling, if it's PlayStation TV, whatever. There's so many different ways to do it now. Daniel Price said they took away my Fox Sports South on Sling TV. I can't afford to figure out another way to watch it. I have to go out and watch it if it's on Fox Sports South. It's silly. Broadcasting rights and blackouts are currently causing issues. I understand that complication, but you're not going to allow ESPN Plus to carry it if you're Fox Sports South in the local market where people can watch it on Fox Sports South. Like, I understand why they don't. I mean, it's just it's a financial issue. Like, why are you going to allow somebody else to carry it instead of your own people to carry it? Because, I mean, it comes down to it, and we're seeing this happen a lot right now, and ESPN's in the midst of it with AT&T. You've got it feels like more than ever these issues where the channel and the outlet are not able to agree on fees and not able to agree on contracts. And now it feels like every month or so there's a new one between ESPN and AT&T or Fox Regional Networks and Comcast or whatever, where you're going to lose your channels. Altitude is dealing with this in Denver right now.
Yep.
Because the margins are more narrow, because it's changing. It's not the old school way of if you want to have cable TV, you have cable TV. Now you can get it other ways, and it gets really complicated. And this stuff's not going to get any easier, I think, in the short term.
No, and it's just something that has to be waded through, and it's just something as a consumer that we all have to keep an eye on when it comes to everything going forward. I mean, it's a key time for the league because you have Flow who wants in. I'm sure DAZN is going to want in. You have the league carriers who are already here. You have all of the regionals. You have all of the individual networks. You have the Fox regional networks who have been bought now by Sinclair. How does that change things? Is Sinclair going to invest the way that they have when it comes to Tennis Channel in the past and their own other network affiliates? And so there are a lot of players right now doing a bunch of different things, and where it goes, there are ways that a lot of these folks can be made happy, but I'm sure that by the end of the discussion, there will be some folks who will be very unhappy in a network perspective because of all of the different ways that you can monetize what you're doing these days. I mean, we've seen with the Fox Sports that they've gone to post-game shows. I think MLS Cup went to a post-game show on Fox Sports Go last year to continue their coverage, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that had to do with the broadcast windows of being on Big Fox. And that probably played into it.
But still, just to have that as an outlet for programming that you see with ESPN Plus, you see with Fox Sports Go, you see with Fox Soccer Plus, and all of those things. You see a lot of transformation to digital. A couple of years ago, Weather Channel, as an example, was making more money through their digital platforms, through advertising, than they were over the air.
Yep. So
that's where things have been heading, and that's a delicate balance for these networks too. And I know that Dish does. Tafka says Dish no longer carries the Fox regionals, and it's a big deal.
Yeah, and it affects ratings, and it affects just access. I think soccer is a really unique spot, and I think MLS can exploit that in their next TV deal because people are used to going to streaming options for soccer. It's just something that if you've followed the game, you're common with it. Now, for traditional fans who are not used to that because you're not used to watching the NFL on a streaming option typically. Baseball is starting to explore more stuff like on YouTube, and the NBA I don't think has went too deep into it just yet, but they will. I think the average MLS fan is far more comfortable with streaming options. So that could open up some different doors. It's just the TV world is fascinating with where everything is right now and where it could be in 2 years, in 3 years. I mean, you've got this just came across on Twitter. Yesterday, Netflix got the streaming rights to Seinfeld in a deal worth more than $500 million, and HBO Max said, oh, okay, we just went and got the Big Bang Theory for a deal reportedly worth more than $1 billion. I mean...
Hold my beer.
It's nuts.
Uh-huh.
It's nuts. And it's only going to get nuttier with soccer TV rights between now and this next deal. So I don't think there's an easy solution, and I know it's annoying, and that's the thing from the MLS side of it that they have to balance is, you have some opportunities to do some things via streaming that other sport leagues might not, but you also, to be a big deal, have to be in traditional spots as well. Mm-hmm. How do you balance that? How do you monetize that? How do you maximize that? That's the challenge for MLS in this next TV deal, is being ahead of the curve, but also being on the curve, and also being behind the curve in some ways. Like, they need to hit all of them. And how they do that, it's people who are on a much higher pay grade than I am figuring that out. In addition to the Big Bang Theory being sold for $1 billion to HBO Max, which is just insanity. That happened on this day. Also on this day, in the TV world, I didn't know this. This is kind of cool. Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner made their debuts in a cartoon in 1949. Oh,
wow.
On this day. I grew up.
Happy 70th anniversary to one of the greatest chases of all time.
Yes. I grew up watching Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, so that's kind of cool. And in the music world, born on this day in 1923, an all-time legend in the world of country music, Hank Williams.
And for the boss, who has done her share of musicals in her theater time, she did Honky Tonk Angels this past summer and has been known to do the Patsy Cline shows occasionally, and she's got the voice to match. So it's Hank Williams, definitely one of the original voices of country music, and Ken Burns has a big documentary. I think it's 16 hours and 8 parts coming out about country music. I think it's either out now or just
started. Yeah, I think they're starting to release those. I'm gonna binge it. I'm gonna wait and watch all of them in a day or a couple of days. I've gotten into that now, and it's another way about how TV consumption has changed. I've gotten into that world where there's some shows that I'd rather, and most shows, I'd rather wait and binge watch it than watch it and then be ready there the next week at the same time to watch it again and watch it again, like in the old school way of Sunday at 9:00. Got to be in front of the TV to watch this. It's changed completely. That was how I consumed TV for most of my life, and now it's like, all right, I really want to watch this Ken Burns country music PBS special. It's going to be great. I know it's going to be really good. I'm going to learn a lot. I know it's something I want to see, but I'm going to wait till it's all in one place and I can watch it all at one time.
Yeah. Leeds United series on Prime Video. Binge watched that.
I got to finish that one. I'm almost through it. I've got to watch the Sergio Ramos one, which I watched the first episode. Pretty interesting. I want to keep watching it. It's in Spanish, but there are subtitles available. Really cool to see the behind the scenes, the stuff behind the scenes with him and his kids and his wife and the game day behind the scenes. Really cool access on the Sergio Ramos one. So check that out. I think there's another one on Amazon Prime on Borussia Dortmund that I have not seen either that I need to dig into. So lots of stuff that is available for you, and hopefully you have ways to watch said stuff. And most importantly, because it's what drives all of it, is the live games. And this is going to be an ongoing conversation, and I think there's going to be a lot of twists and turns. I hope that Fox Sports Southeast and Sling and Dish and all of those can get this figured out, because it's a problem for Atlanta United at the moment. It's a problem for the Atlanta Braves. It will be a problem for the Atlanta Hawks with games on networks that people are used to being able to see on their provider who will not be able to see it. So hopefully it's not over a couple pennies per subscriber type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's where it gets down to sometimes. And all right, at some point, cut the deal and move on.
Find your midpoint, sign it, move, go.
Yeah. We will not be in the normal time slot tomorrow live. The show will be roughly released at the same time slot, but it will be recorded. John has put together the all-star cast of pundits getting ready for Atlanta and Cincinnati. Check that out in the morning on the SDH app, on Spreaker, on soccerdownhere.net. Then in the afternoon, Mike Conti and I will be live from a White Castle location preparing for Atlanta and Cincinnati. That'll be lunch. We will do a live Q&A with you. So if you have questions that pop up listening to the morning edition, if you have questions about Atlanta and Cincinnati, tweet them at us, at Longshoe, at Mike Conti 99. We'll get to those in an afternoon show. We'll give you 30 minutes to an hour heads up when we know what time we'll go live and do that. We'll be on the radio 30 minutes ahead of the scheduled kickoff time, not the actual kickoff time, as Ian Quillen definitely pointed out. We will be on 92.9 The Game at 7 o'clock for the Five Stripes Countdown. You can also listen on the radio.com app, on the Atlanta United app. Kickoff will be just after 7:30, probably 7:38 to be exact. We will be back for the full-time report for an hour following the final whistle as well. So 3.5 hours of us talking on the radio and apps to you about Atlanta and Cincinnati. Thursday, we will not have a normal morning show due to my travel schedule. We will have an evening show at 6 o'clock, recapping Atlanta, Cincinnati, and starting the look ahead. We'll also recap the other games from tomorrow night. In addition to Portland and Red Bulls, Seattle and Dallas, you have the first leg of the Canadian Championship, Montreal hosting Toronto. We'll see if the Impact can salvage their season and get into CONCACAF Champions League, because the winner of that will go to CONCACAF Champions League. All kinds of stuff will be available for you over the next couple of days on the app. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll be with you tomorrow in various formats from various places. Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.